my mother's uncle, who went back to China to serve with the Flying Tigers before the United States jumped into the war. And then when the United States jumped into the war and the Army Air Corps came in and replaced the Flying Tigers, he was a tail gunner. Well, he returned to the United States, got his college education, and then was involved as an engineer with that group down at Penn that created the first computer.
Get out.
And then he was involved in a number of other types of science and research work. But I, as a kid, I didn't know him until the latter part of his life, and he was out of that by then. But he had worked at the Franklin Institute. He was doing all sorts of things. He even went back to college in his later years and reinvented himself and was teaching. He was an engineer, electrical engineer. He was teaching accounting at Villanova.
So all that, that we all gain as a community and as a society.
Absolutely. I tell people, there's so many stories, the Smoyers, the Chinese, the Germans and the Italians that came here and committed themselves to this new country that they called their own. And that's the foundation that we have all, benefited from.
Right. And here you are, the son of immigrants, or where it's the son of an immigrant.
My family's a little interesting. My great grandfather came to the United States and was part of building the Transcontinental Railroad.
Go on. I think you told me that before.
And then he was one of the few that were fortunate enough to be able to return back to China. So he returned back to China. My grandfather, because that time China was pretty poor. There was really not a lot going on. My grandfather came to the United States, and my father and my two aunts were born here. But I think my father was 1 year old. The Great Depression hit, so there was nothing here. So my grandfather and my father and my aunts all returned back to China. And then my father didn't return to the United States until 1950. He escaped China when the communists were closing the borders, got to Hong Kong, and then made his way from Hong Kong to the United States. But frankly, for all intents and purposes, he couldn't read English until the day he passed away. He never could read English. His spoken English was okay, but not great. So I always look at myself, from a practical purpose as first generation. My family's on and off over the years.
You are and you're not. Oh, that's fascinating. It's